can I say something real quick?
Sure. Yeah.
I love that Fleur is doing this and that they're putting their hardware out there, and they did the initial work on the software protocol. So standardizing on software was a huge success. I think the next step forward for the industry and Fleur and everyone else is to adopt hardware standards and standardize on interfaces so that we can actually get to a future where just plug and play cross-platform functionality. That would be ideal for the end user. Where guess what? We have a standard and a work group right now which is working towards that. We're trying to standardize payload connectors. So like we have bottom connector, we have a front connector, and what those do is they give you the interfaces, the hardware interfaces to connect to a hardware camera, and then they enable the software, which is the same that we spoke of, the mapping software, to run on top of it and standardize the whole thing so you don't really have to do anything. And manufacturers, all they need to do is either create an accessory to connect to this hardware standard or develop an interface for that connector specifically. And all those connectors and all of that information is already open and it's out there on the hardware work group for Dronecode hardware work group, and that's on our forums, and you can look that up right now.
So yeah, we haven't reached kind of our USB standard for connectors here in the drone industry, right? So imagine like going from laptop to laptop, and I can't connect my USB microphone because you're on this standard versus another, or you've just made up your own connector and you want to sell your own gear on top of it, which
like
is
Apple.
Well,
exactly.
Well, when you have that kind of weight to throw around, that's what happens. But
yeah, well, it's actually happening right now in the industry where a lot of these companies are having to create their own or choose their own connectors because there's no de facto standard. And what happens is that every company, when they want to develop a payload, they end up doing the research again and again. And you have to consider a lot of things like power, the data that goes through, any network connectivity you might need. Maybe you want to have a smaller companion computer next to that payload accessory that needs to connect.
And that affects how you could code the apps, because if you can't guarantee a certain level of reliability on the signal or what data is being transferred or how much voltage is going through that thing, you're coding for worst case scenarios, or you're over coding to kind of make sure that you're covering every use case. Kind of like for web devs out there, like trying to code for every outdated version of Internet Explorer over the years to make sure your HTML doesn't break.
Exactly. So that's just a good analogy, because that's one of the things that we're doing as part of Dronecode. We're trying to get all of the different companies that are in the PX4 ecosystem to adopt the latest standards, to adopt the latest software, so you don't fall behind, you don't get outdated, and push the industry forward together. And that's really important. And having a community that is backing you up in that regard is incredible, because you don't have to invest in all of that research up front. You don't have to do it alone. And with having a foundation and a community behind you, you have events, you have lots of content that gets generated, and you have weekly touch-ins with the dev team. So that's a lot of the things that you get. It's a benefit of participating in open standards and in open communities. And I'm not advocating specifically about ours, although ours is awesome. But there's other communities as well. And this is a way to start working. And I want to see a lot more players in the industry adopt this way of working.